Welcome to CWC Podcast, where leadership, culture and real-life lessons collide. I'm Chris Campbell, a former military leader turned business mentor and business project manager. I'm here to share stories, strategies and simple tools that'll help gain your edge. No fluff, no jargon, just practical conversations to help you grow. Let's dive straight in. Welcome back to CWC Edge Podcast, and today we're talking about one of the toughest challenges every leader, business owner, graduate will face: change. More specifically, change management. How we guide ourselves and others through it. Here's the reality. Change is everywhere. CEOs face it when market forces shift. SMEs face it when they need to pivot to survive. Councils and small businesses face it when community expectations evolve. Graduates face it when they step out of education and into their first roles. And service leavers face it when they transition into civilian life. Change doesn't ask for permission, people. It arrives. Sometimes suddenly, sometimes gradually, but always inevitably. The problem: humans resist change. It disrupts their comfort. It disrupts their identity. It disrupts their routine. And unless it's managed well, change can create fear. It can also create resentment within the workforce and potentially disengagement. But when change is handled with clarity, with empathy and with leadership, it becomes an opportunity, a chance for growth, for innovation and resilience. In this episode, we'll unpack why change is so difficult, the biggest mistakes leaders make, and some strategies that will help you work to ensure your people adapt or help your people adapt. And by the end, you'll have a toolkit that you can apply today, tomorrow, next week in your business, in your team, or your personal life when the winds of change blow your way. Let's start by asking the big question then. Why do people resist change? Well, psychologists point to three main reasons. Loss of control. Change feels like something is being done to us, not with us. Uncertainty. People would often rather have a known problem than an unknown solution. And fear of failure. New systems, new processes, new ways of working. What if I can't keep up? That fear of failure. I mentored a CEO who tried to introduce a new digital system across their entire company in one massive hit. Staff resisted fiercely. He got on the blower to me and we had a real good conversation. But it wasn't because the system that he wanted to introduce and had introduced was bad. It was because they weren't sure if they'd look incompetent learning it, or some of the older generation didn't really get along with the technical aspects of it. They didn't want to look inferior. The fear of failure drove resistance, especially amongst his older employees. The lesson behind resistance, is sometimes always almost fear. So what happens when change is handled badly? And I'm sure every one of you sat listening to this, whatever you're doing, running, driving in your car, on your way to work, you probably have seen when change has been handled badly. You've probably been part of that change and you've probably disengaged yourself. But there's three big costs, potentially in business. Productivity loss. People disengage while complaining or resisting. They're not focused on their main task. So undoubtedly, the productivity will take a dip. Talent drain. Frustrated employees leave. Often the best ones, especially during change times. And if you don't get the messaging right and you don't look after change properly within your organization, you might find that some of your most highly decorated employees will get up and go. And cultural change. Trust erodes and future changes become even harder when that trust is dissipated. I saw this with a department that I worked with that rolled out restructuring, a massive change in the MOD without consultation. The service members felt blindsided. I was part of that. Even when the plan had merit and they knew that it was going to be a brilliant thing when it was brought in, the way it was delivered, it cost months of disengagement. The way it was ordered, just do it, it didn't work. The change itself wasn't an issue. It was the management of the change that happened. It was the leadership and the lack of leadership, empathy that happened during that time. So how do we get it right? Here are 5 basic principles of effective change management that you can add into your life right now. Number 1, clarity. People can't follow what they don't understand. People can't follow what they don't understand. Be crystal clear on what is changing. Tell them what's changing. Tell them why. Number 2, communication. Don't just announce once. Communicate early. Communicate often. And communicate consistently. A project I ran, and I'm still part of that project, we really delved into communication. We'd communicated 3 months in advance of what any change was going to happen to get the employees engaged, to ask the employees to understand what was coming, and to actually effectively lay down the roots, the foundation for the change is going to be a good thing. But we needed them to obviously come on board. I'm happy to report that change has happened, and they have worked really exceptionally well, and the IT department worked really well to bring that change over the line. Number 3, involvement. Give people a voice. When people feel heard, they feel ownership. They feel part of something. They own it. Number 4, support. Training, coaching, giving them time to adapt. Don't expect instant mastery of a change. Time. It will take time. And lastly, number 5, consistency. The leaders, the senior strategic leadership teams, your senior managers, your middle managers, your lower end managers, your shop floor stewards, charge hands, whoever they are, they must model that change themselves. If they do not, you've lost it. Nothing kills change faster than do as I say, not as I do. Very often in the military, when I was part of change projects, and people would come down and tell you had to do something in a set way, and then they didn't live by that way themselves and they took shortcuts. Well, what did we do? Well, we took the same shortcuts, because if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. When I mentored an SME owner, probably about 9 months ago, through a major shift, these 5 principles made all the difference to him. Instead of springing the change overnight to his staff, and he only had 15 staff, I think it was at the time, they explained why it mattered. He involved the staff in actually the planning process, which is undoubtedly a really, really gold spanner in your toolbox. Get them in early. Help them support you with what you think that you need, and then actually get answers and ideas from them and how you can support them with training them on the new change. What started with resistance potentially ended with pride, because people felt that they were part of the journey, that people owned the journey. He sat back several months after, and we had a beer. I'm not advertising for people to drink beer, but we had a beer, and we just sat talking, thinking he was so astounded that by looking at these 5 points that we talked about during mentor sessions, that actually it spun a circle. His people started to believe that they owned it, and they came up with the ideas, which was absolutely transformational for him. So change isn't just a process, you have to remember, it's emotional. It plays with people's emotions. People go through stages that mirror the grief cycle, the denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Leaders who ignore the emotional side of change will fail. Trust me. Leaders who address the emotional side of change will succeed. It might take long, but you will succeed. So here's how. Acknowledge feelings. Don't dismiss fears, and listen to the people. Share your own vulnerability. Admitting that you're finding it hard to the change as well, that will build trust. Talking around the coffee machine with your people, saying what you're struggling with, it will build trust. It won't show you as being weak. And highlight your progress for you and your team. Celebrate the small wins along the way. We've talked about that before, the importance of celebrating small wins. I worked with several people who joined the company going through mid-merger, and they absolutely felt lost. Their manager sat down with them weekly, however, in mentoring sessions inside the business, and asked them how they were coping. And they celebrated these small adaptations with them. And the feedback from them was brilliant. That simple human touch turned what could have been an overwhelming thought and change model into a learning experience. Change is hard, but it's easier together. Now, let's be honest about the mistakes leaders often make in change management. I have seen so many mistakes. I've been part of change initiatives that the leadership were just awful, especially in some of my time in the military. Try not to overload people with information. Dumping a 2-hour video or a 50 slide deck on your staff the weekend before you commit to a change, that doesn't equal clarity, people. It equals confusion. Ignoring people's feedback, pretending everyone is on board when they're not. If you're sat there in the clouds thinking, oh, all my staff are happy with this change and we're all going swimmingly, it's not. If you're pretending that people are on board, you're clearly delusional. Moving too fast as well, expecting instant results without, going through the learning curve, the mental cycle of people having to accept it and then to agree with the change or deny the change. You have to slow down during change. And failing to model the change, saying one thing and doing another, is probably the worst thing you could do during a change process. I once had chat. I hadn't mentored this individual, but I had a lot of good time with him and chatting to him, and he demanded a digital first meetings, and it came up during a conversation with us. And then after a couple of days, he didn't like it, so he started to print everything out for themselves, and he put it on the table, and he'd be rustling through notes and going through notes, and the rest of his staff were relying on the dictaphone to push meeting notes back to them. They noticed that. They could see it. I mean, he sat there with loads of papers demanding that everyone should go digital first. So they stopped taking the digital push seriously. Guess what? They were all back to wasting paper again. Leaders set the tone. If you're not living it, neither will they. Here are 3 practical tools you can apply tomorrow or today or next week, next month, next year. I would suggest probably earlier. And a really good model that I work off is the why, the what, the how, and the when. Every change should be communicated in this order. Why is this change happening? Let people know. And then the what it involves. What are you going to ask your staff to do? What are you going to ask your people that are going to go through this change? What are you going to ask them to do? What does it involve? Do they need new kit and equipment? Do they need to get refreshed on new software devices, etc.? And then how will it work? How is the change going to work? Are you going to stage it in 6-stage processes? Are you going to do one team at a time, etc.? And then when it will roll out. Give people the time frame and how it would roll out. Any massive change, I would strongly suggest that you do not roll out blanket. Let's say you have 100 people in your organization. Try not to change the software glitch for 100 people on a Monday morning. It's not going to happen. You're not going to win. You're not going to have success. Try to phase it. Do 10 people and then take feedback and then introduce it to the next 10 people. It will take longer, but actually for a change, you're including everyone. You're asking for feedback. You're asking for challengers. Change champions. Identify people within your teams or your network who support the change. Have a chat. It's really easy to do. Go over to them, have a brew. What do you think about X, Y, and Z? What do you think about, this change that we're going to try and probably bring in? Give them the visibility to influence their peers positively. Because if they're talking about it positive with you, hopefully, undoubtedly, they'll go and talk about it positive with others. And hopefully, what every change manager would love to see is change champions. They own the change, they believe in it, and they stop people talking negatively about it. And lastly, feedback loops. Schedule check-ins, specifically for people who share challenges adapting. You'll know them. You'll know the early adapters. You'll know those that don't want to adapt at all. Listen to everyone, act upon it, and communicate the change as it will make a result. These tools work in every environment, guys, from business transformation to grassroots football coaching. When I introduced new training methods for our football team, the boys, I explained to them why it mattered, why we were changing the way we trained. I showed them how it worked and gave players a say in shaping some of the drills we do. Sometimes, once a month, we let them come up with their drills. The majority of them, they always want to go and play penalties. Surprisingly, they're only 10. But resistance amongst them turned into enthusiasm. The same principles, just a different setting. So here's your mission this week. Think about one change you're leading. It could be at work, it could be in your team, it could be in a football team, it could be in a sport team, it could be even in your personal life. Write down why, what, how, and when. Write them down. Then identify one person you can involve as a champion. It could be the captain of your team. It could be a senior leader in a environment that you are operating in. Finally, schedule a feedback conversation with them and have a chat. Small steps, big difference. That's it for today's episode on CWC Edge podcast. Change is inevitable, but thriving through change, well, that's a choice. It's a choice leaders make when they communicate clearly, when they involve others, and support people through the emotional journey. If you want to explore this deeper, head over to cwcedge.com. You'll find free resources, practical guides, and ways to connect with me directly. Whether you're leading a company, you're running a local football team, sporting team, you're growing a small, medium enterprise, you're starting your career, or you're navigating a major transition such as leaving the armed forces or emergency services, change management is your opportunity to lead with impact. Until next time, embrace change, lead with clarity, and as always, keep your edge. Thanks for listening to CWC Edge podcast. If today gave you something to think about, share it with your colleagues, share it with your friends, share it with your team, because growth is better when it's shared, people. For more insights, resources, and blogs, head over to cwcedge.com. Until next time, keep it simple, keep improving, and keep your edge.